Welcome. If you are a clinic or salon owner, this video is absolutely for you, especially if you're looking to fill your diary. Because in this video, just going to be like a short training, I'm going to show you a very powerful overlooked strategy about how you can, in a very accessible and very efficient way, fill your diary in days using what you already have with little to no effort. And this strategy doesn't involve you running paid ads, you don't need to keep posting, and you don't need to keep hoping. It doesn't matter if you don't have so much time right now as a busy clinic owner. It doesn't matter if you don't have a team. You can do this if you're completely solo. And also, if you don't even have a budget at this specific time right now, this strategy can also help you. Because it is using one of the most overlooked strategies in businesses, specifically like yours, which is a service-based business of booking in clients for appointments. And that is called database reactivation, which, like I said, is very common to be used in business, but it's just not used so much, usually because sometimes it does require a bit more time and effort for the reward you'll get for it. But nowadays, because of things like AI and automation, which is what we'll be talking about in this specific video, that has completely flipped on its head. And to me, it's like if you do not know about this, you really need to know, because you will see, as I demonstrate in this video, just how powerful this is. So what is database reactivation? It's very simple. You've been running your business or clinic for some years, and from that, you've got a list of clients who you've served, who've actually paid you and given you their contact details. So you may not have seen many of them for quite some time. And database reactivation is simply about contacting these past clients who've just simply gone quiet. It is literally like a cash injection into your business on demand, because there's no restrictions about when you can do this, what time of year, and how many times you do it, as long as you've always got past patients to contact that you haven't seen. It is also really useful if you're looking to not just get more people through the door, but bring people continuously back through the door, like turning these clients into long-term loyal clients who want to do repeat bookings, which quite often is the need for people to have their true wellness and transformation. And also, like I said, doing all of this with minimum cost and effort, because essentially you've already paid the cost to get these clients once in the past. You don't need to be paying to get them back again. And in terms of effort, that's where the whole automation concept will come in. So here I just want to share with you, before we go into not just the theory really, but just talking about it, I want to share some actual results of what I've been able to help other clinic owners similar to yours achieve. And these are results from having contacted only 300 of clients in their database, just to do like some sort of trial runs. And these all happened very recently, just before the new year, in fact. So a bit of background. The three clinics I'll talk about, you've got different types here. So I just need my mouse actually to point towards. So we've got a clinic owner. She's an aesthetics clinic owner. Her name's Sarah. She's got a practice called Aesthetics by Sarah. And she's actually a solo practitioner, meaning she runs her business totally by herself, also is the only practitioner in her business as well. And she's someone where this strategy has worked very successfully for. Anyone who's solo, really highly recommend you stay tuned and really understand what's possible for you. Also, I have another clinic business, and their name was clinic name of Flow Aesthetics, which is a two-woman practice based in Plymouth, and they both are the practitioners and equally business partners. This has worked having a bit of assistance, but it's still really helpful, even if you have a human staff in your setup. And also Looking Glass Aesthetics. So they are also an aesthetics business. You'll actually find all my clients so far are aesthetics clients, but it doesn't mean this isn't for you if you're not specifically in aesthetics. It's very adaptable for whatever clinic you are, or even salon. So they're actually a family-run clinic team. So they have a couple of staff members, some juniors, some seniors, some directors, and this has also worked really well for them. And I'm just going to flick now to show you what we were able to do from having contacted just 300 clients. And as you can see here, hopefully you can see it's not too small for you. These are actually just sample results. This is not actually the finished product, if you could say, but I'll show you where we've achieved up to so far. So Sarah has actually got 12 booked appointments, totaling up to more than £1,500. And this is all, I'll explain later, done in days, right? Contacted 300 people to get 12 people in. Like I said, that's not a finished article. This is just up to now. Two things. When people come in, they are likely to want to take up more appointments, take up more offers. So that 1,500 can easily turn into double. In fact, I've spoken to Sarah directly, and she's mentioned that even just one client who she actually has not seen for more than, I think, 600 days is when we looked at it, she'll be coming back in. And if she takes up that offer, which she actually inquired for, it will be an extra £1,000 because she's selling a course of treatments that she'll be interested in. So just one client alone could just bring you back an extra £1,000 cash. That's what I mean. This is like literally having a cash injection without having the costs to go for it. Just quickly run through some of the other results. So Flow Aesthetics, they booked in 9 opportunities, almost generated £1,000. And Looking Glass, they generated 15. When I say opportunities, I mean actual bookings. These are just screenshots from an app in which we use to track how the latest of the reactivation campaign is going. But as you can see, there are various levels of booking results, let alone income results. Totally depends on your clinic, what kind of price range you charge. But this, like I said, was just from a very simple short campaign. In fact, each of them, like you saw, they got 10 to 15 bookings and they were all done within 5 days of starting the campaign. So what we're going to cover in this training, first of all, why do reactivation? And even though it's such a powerful strategy, when you hear about the concept of it, why is it that businesses aren't doing it? Usually because it's failed for many. And I'm going to be explaining why it's failed, but why it won't when you learn how to do it properly. And that involves knowing what is the complete system that we've used in our business to help our clinic clients and that make this work. I'm showing you the results potential. So you've seen obviously some real results. But as you put it into your context, in your scenario, you'll be able to see what the potential is for that. And finally, once you've understood everything, how it works, why it works, you'll probably want to be interested to know how can you install this into your business. I'll be explaining that at the end, of course. So I think I just want to touch on a topic, like likely maybe if you're watching this, you came across this, maybe bookings are a bit low right now. The clinic or the salon is a bit quiet especially compared to previous years. That's what I've noticed a lot of clinic owners saying. So why has it been hard and why reactivation, you won't experience that? Well, something to be quite aware of when it comes to the purpose of marketing and making it work. So the first step is to really, you need to get in front of the right people, right? People who are actually interested in your types of services. And they just need to know of you. Notice I didn't say they need to know you, like really know you. They just need to know of you. And that's like one of the hardest things to do in marketing. And your client database, they don't just know of you, they know you. They've even experienced your work. So you won't get that issue when it comes to doing reactivation. But as well as getting people to know you in marketing to get new clients, the hardest thing is what I mean to say. The hardest thing in marketing is to win their trust. And to win trust, there's so many things I could say about this, but a couple of concepts is like obviously you got to show up in the right way, the authentic way. But it's not even just about how good you are and how good you are at saying what you do or what you can do. It's the multiple touch points. You need to get in front of people quite constantly, especially if they're surrounded by so many other businesses who are offering similar things. And also people don't know what to trust these days online. It's getting harder. So it's become a difficult thing to win trust. But when it comes to reactivation, these people, like I said, they've already experienced your work and hopefully they've had a good experience of it. They just maybe don't remember you. It's been a while, right? So many things go on in people's lives. They haven't thought of you, even if they do have a need for something you give. So your marketing to people already trust you. And that's why this works really well, because you don't have to go through all the difficult things you normally have to do in marketing to get people to be interested or curious to come in. And to do all those things, like I said, to get people to know you, to trust you, that requires something. That requires effort and skill. Like I said, the multiple touch points, all of that. And if you're not the expert marketer, which quite often I know speaking to practitioners, this is not their lane, right? They're good at their practice work, not so much the business and admin and marketing side. You normally have to employ staff. You normally have to hire or outsource this work. That requires resources, or it requires time if you want to be doing it yourself. But with reactivation, like I said, just use what you already have, and it doesn't require a lot of work and effort to make it work because you've already done that in the past. So reactivation, we understand, makes total sense. Why isn't it that people aren't doing it? And it's usually because they might have tried it in the past and they've failed. I'm going to go into 3 of the biggest reasons why this happens, and then understanding later that our solution, you won't experience that. So the reason number 1 of reactivation failing, therefore not wanting to do it, simply people don't see it. So let's say, for example, a clinic owner has email blasted their whole list, which is very common to do, like I said. But just simply, it's not that people didn't like the message or appreciate the message, it's just simply didn't see it, right? And we'll talk about later about email open rates and things like that. But if people don't see it, they're not going to get the message, therefore feel the interest and curiosity or need to come back in. And that's one of the main problems. You solve that, you solve a lot of the problem that most people experience when it comes to reactivation. Okay. Reason number 2, they do get the right channel. They do get it in front of the people they want, but actually they do it wrong. And worse, they sometimes lose trust, right? How that happens is because they feel there's a need to make sure this is compelling and make sure people feel the need, that they're trying to make that happen a bit too much, a bit convincing, a bit salesy, a bit promoting like. So yes, we are trying to win business essentially. I mean, not win business, we're trying to get business. We've already got the client, but we feel like there's more to do. There isn't really. It's really just about that relationship and past experience connection you've already had with them. So that's the reason where people go wrong. They get a bit confused with normal marketing tactics, where actually those things I mentioned before are actually more needed. And finally, reason number three, they do it, but it's incomplete. Without me going too much into it here, I'm going to explain that right later in the video. But yes, essentially, it's not just about a one message touch point. There is actually a few bits to go in the sequence, and also multiple ways of doing the touches. So I'll get more into that later. And in the system that I show you, all of that gets fixed. So this is the system we use that fixes all of this. It consists of three parts, and I'm going to go through each of them one by one, which is the right message, AI assistance. That's a whole topic on its own. We're going to go through that, and something that I call the last piece, just because it is crucial, but I don't want to give it away just here. Okay, so part one, which is the right message, and the right message is the one that gets seen and works. So rather than just talking straight away about what to say, like I mentioned before, when the issue was that the message doesn't get seen, let's just talk slightly on that topic first, which is what we're going to talk about here. So, did you know that when it comes to email, let's say you blast emails to your whole list, about 20% of people will open it. You know, not everyone checks their email, right? I'm sure you yourself, if you go through your email, you've got tons and tons and tons of emails. You either miss it, you either just feel like, okay, it's just one of those things trying to promote those sort of things. You understand. So email open rates are about 20%, and then click rates, meaning the people who open, who then also click, meaning if you're putting some sort of link in there to take up a special offer and things like that, or some sort of call to action to get them to engage, it's looking quite low, right? So that's about like 1.6% overall if you're, totaling these numbers, which if you're emailing about 100 people, you might get about two people perhaps engaging. It doesn't mean they're going to book, just perhaps engaging. So we don't use email. What we use actually is WhatsApp. WhatsApp, especially if you're in the UK, this is the prime channel you want to be marketing in if you're not already. You probably got your own WhatsApp numbers and accounts, but to do the kind of reactivation work we're talking about, email, you can probably understand, is quite normal as a service that can be automated and sent to many people in one go. WhatsApp, not something people are aware of, let alone know how to do. But it's really worth knowing and doing this, because look at the difference in the potential when you do it by WhatsApp versus email. With WhatsApp, the open rate is actually up to 90%. And this happens consistently. It happened with all those clients that you mentioned, that I mentioned in the case studies earlier. And the reply rates are like 20%, meaning they open, which means they've read it. About 1 in 5 actually do take the time to respond, and much higher if you've actually got a good relationship with these clients of yours. So overall, WhatsApp could give you about 12 times better results than email. So when I was talking before about you email 100 people, maybe 2 people engage. Well, actually in WhatsApp, you might get 25 people or so engaging. So just having the right channel makes all the difference. But it's not just about the channel, like I mentioned, it's about saying what I believe is the right thing. So before I show you an actual example of what you can send, and you can even screenshot it and use it yourself to see how you might use it, just to go over the kind of principles behind the message, right? Because it's going to be sent in WhatsApp. Therefore, you have to note that WhatsApp is not where people get the most messages when it comes to business, at least not yet. So it's definitely something you want to get on the train of now, whilst it's not so common that people don't get annoyed by it and stuff. But either way, we're not going to annoy them. It's going to be a personal message, right? It's not going to sound like it's coming from a business or it's coming from a promotion ad. This is actually like having a real check-in with people who already paid you and know you and trust you. And that's a powerful way to start. So we want to keep the message personal, right? Within the message, what we are aiming to help them feel like they are valued, right? They're a valued client, they're a valued customer. And when we help them feel that, and it feels genuine, they want to respond, right? The key thing of this reactivation campaign is they've not been responding, they've just not been engaging in general, right? For whatever reason, not intentionally, but just as how it's been. We want to reactivate, meaning we want to re-engage them. We can get them into a re-engagement. You've done half the job already to help yourself get success from this campaign. Also, in the message, when you keep it very simple, very light, the kind of message you would want to receive, right? If you see lots of information, you just know someone's trying a bit too hard here, right? So there's no convincing effort goes into it. And also, it does need to have call to action, meaning we want them to take a next step, but that comes from them engaging. So we want to make that as easy as possible for them to move forward. And I'll explain an example of what's not, just so you understand what I mean by making it easy. So here is a template. Okay, before showing you an actual message, I want to show you an example template. So here it goes. A name, it's practitioner name from area. Sometimes some people move around, or some people might just forgotten by name, but when they hear the area, they feel relevant, especially if it's theirs. And then I've just given some placeholders here. about the kind of thing to include in a message. So in this section, which is going to be just one line, just some sort of timely gesture, right? You're sending these messages out at a particular time of year, make it relevant to that time of year. And something that's a positive, affirmative kind of message that just feels nice to receive on its own. But then you can nicely link something you're saying about what's positive, and to mention in relation to that and to help with that and to thank you. As a client, I'd love to give you a gift. I'll show you a real example of the message on the next slide. And what we're doing is we're giving away, and then this is where you insert an offer that you can actually do. I'll give you some examples, but an offer that you can actually do that will make sense to your business and you feel profitable doing this sort of work. So just helps them understand saving money, right? People love getting those discounts. People love taking up opportunities for offers and treating themselves maybe. So, and then what I mean by simple action step, like I said, here's one example. Just reply yes, and we'll organize the rest. I love that line. And it's worked for every one of those clients. We didn't change a thing. That's exactly what we did. So how does this look in a real example message? Here's one example. Okay, so this is for one where it's the new year, so made it tailored towards January, right? So as before, hey client name, it's practitioner name. That's also really important, by the way, because if they already know you, they are likely more to respond. So mention it's your specific name or the one that they were last seen at an appointment from the clinic in the area. Okay, this is about January. So the start of a new year is a great reminder to create moments that make you feel good and carry that positivity forward. To help, and as a thank you for being a wonderful client of ours, I wanted to offer you a special gift. We're giving away XX% off all treatments, save however much money you can. Just reply yes, and we'll organize the rest. Right? We ran these campaigns very similar to this one, and we actually did a Christmas campaign with the ones you saw earlier. And obviously we're in January, well, we are in January now at the time of recording this video, so I've just tailored it to January. But it's not really about the words, it's more about the concepts like I explained before. And this has worked so well. It's not just about people saying yes and booking in, and that's a really good thing. It's also just people feeling remembered, people feeling valued. People have actually replied to these messages and just mentioned like so much about what's been going on in their world lately. And it's touching, some people are doing well, some people are not doing well, but they didn't have anyone to actually check in on them. So they didn't feel that need to express that. And this is what's really powerful about doing this. It's not just about reactivating to get clients. It's just reconnecting in general for people who've already trusted you, which is a great feeling to have. So honestly, like from a message like this, compared to typical reactivation messages you might see out there, this will get you a very high response rate, again, depending on the relationships you have. And I think I can share one of those case studies examples like Sarah. She got like, I think about 80 to 90 responses from just 300 messages, right? Which is way above the benchmarks when it comes to normal reactivation results. So just also mention that in this template here, which you can use, just certain areas, they're just the bits that need to be swapped out or adapted depending on the time of year. And also, by the way, you don't always have to do a discount. It's just been proven that that works really well to get people interested. It can also just be a simple check-in message as well, which just gets people to remember you, basically. And then you can turn that into an interest. Now, once they say yes, you don't just want to send them a link, which is what 90% of people do when it comes to reactivation, because it's there. Now it's up to them, they can do it themselves. But we can't assume that you just send them a link and then that's it. They will definitely book in. I'm sure you've been in that situation. If you tried something like this or in another situation, people just don't automatically click on links and go through everything that you want them to. Not because they don't want to, just life gets in the way. They get busy. They think they'll do it later, all that kind of thing. So don't just send them a link. Stay in conversation, right? We've created this personal interaction effect, right? Keep it that way rather than some sort of automated output, even though it is. So you stay in conversation, right? Like, great, what can we do for you? What would you like done? Like, you just keep it conversational because they just feel like they're talking to a friend. They're much more warmer and they're more likely to be responding. So, okay, I understand maybe if you're hearing this, that maybe that doesn't sound so practical, especially if you have a big list. Like we've been talking about a list of 300 people here, but people have client lists of like thousands, right? Tens of thousands. So that's clearly not practical if you have a big list to take that manual conversation one by one, especially when not everyone's going to really be a hot or warm respondee, right? So what we do is we don't do it manually with a human, right? Especially if you're a solo practitioner, definitely not. What I do is I install an AI assistant into your database to go through the contacts and to do this work for them. So for you, I mean, so actually before I forgot to mention, when you send out those messages, right, you don't have to do that manually with your phone, copy and pasting, texting people one by one. That can all be done automatically, just like it can be done in email. But similarly, not just that initial outreach message, the whole conversation can actually be automated by AI. Okay, I know if you're not aware so much about how AI can work, you might sound a bit skeptical. We think, oh, don't know if I want to do that. I want to share some just our experiences of the clients, at least similar to you, who've used the AI. So this just brings us into the part 2 component of the process, which is using AI assistance, and that is having your very own emotionally intelligent trained PA. Notice that I said emotionally intelligent because AI means artificial intelligence, but it's so much better than just that. So I prefer to let you know that it's actually emotionally intelligent, and it can handle those responses and also the bookings for you, most importantly, 24/7, right? So instant replies, all day replies, out of hours, everything. Because that's actually the time when more people do have the time to respond. Anyway, it's about the AI PA and what it can do for you. Now, notice I said it's an AI assistant, right? It's not an AI clinic practitioner or someone to mimic you or even replace you, right? It's just like I've highlighted the word PA here. This is literally like you hiring your own PA. So it's not actually you. If you hire the human staff version, for example, right? They don't need to have the skills, the expertise of a practitioner. They can just be an expert at, being that one at the desk, being that one who does the receptionist job, right? So as long as their personality, the tone, the style, and it knows its boundaries, it's just taking on the role, like if you hired your own human assistant. And that's essentially how I see it and how we've worked with it, right? So it is also trained, right? This isn't not an AI assistant just out there from the internet with no context, right? I've trained these AI assistants who work specifically in this kind of setup. But of course, I'll go through some of that training with you, give you the chance to adapt any specific things that might be more aligned to your clinic, or knowledge through your practice. So it is trained to be helpful, personal, and aligned. That's pretty much all you need for it to do. Um, but yes, the way I programmed it, specifically works well in this type of scenario, talking to past clients and you know um, helping them feel warm and good coming to come back in, as well as to find a slot that's available for them, which I'll mention about briefly. So there might be situations where the AI doesn't have the answer. There might be a situation where the AI just simply doesn't have the answer. It could be like a technical thing, or it could be something specific to the client's experience they've had once before, or a treatment they've done once before. Some little nuances like this. AI doesn't have to answer everything. It just needs to acknowledge, listen, but then also just make a note. So any of these situations, they can be passed back on to you, and you can deal with these manually, right? So this just happens sometimes, but not a lot. Only those times is when you need to get manually involved, which won't be a lot, right? And especially when you don't have to deal with every other case, much more easier for you to handle and manage. And also, what I think is really cool about this, and actually what I noticed when I work with practitioners and using and just helping them with their work on say conversions to clients, whether they're new clients or past clients. Actually, the thing that takes the longest time in these situations of having a chat is just finding a suitable time for them, right? So if they don't send a booking link and they're trying to do this by chat, that's the bit that takes the longest. It's not so much about the convincing or the trying and the explaining. It's just literally finding a time. But with the AI, it's very skilled again to work out what's best for them, right? So it'll ask them what's their availability. It matches that with your availability because it knows it, and it just gives them the most appropriate slot. And in the user's experience, they are literally just talking to a friend almost. Like, yeah, can you do this time? I've got a job that day, so can you do this? Can you do that? AI just responds very humanly back, not robotic whatsoever. And just because I didn't mention it, like I said, it's positioned as your assistant. So whilst the initial message is coming from your name, it's going to be such that the AI assistant is the one answering. So it will mention that, not that it's AI, but just that it's another team member, which is a very normal situation to have if you actually had human staff. So your clients don't need to feel like, oh, I'm not talking to the real, uh, clinic practitioner that I thought I was, right? It's very normal for them to accept. We didn't have any problems with this before. In fact, we had one situation where a lady who's a client of Looking Glass Aesthetics, which you saw there, she came into the clinic having already spoken to the AI assistant, not realizing it was an AI. And she came to the desk being like, oh, wow, Jennifer, who is the name of the AI that we gave her. Jennifer's lovely. I'd love to come in and I'd love to meet her. Thinking, as in, that's how good a positive experience she had. So you don't need to worry about in case your clients don't feel humanly connected with, which is what some people do when it comes to the topic of AI. But I would mention that AI is not a shiny toy. As much as the cool, great things it can do, it's not a shiny toy. It's actually really needed. And it's just one of these things. We're just going for a huge change in how we work and how we do things. But AI is very much going to be an integral part of all businesses, especially I think in the clinics and salon space. So especially if you don't have staff and you're a small business, it's really, really needed. And here's why. When you are trying to do this yourself, or even if you hire staff to do this to help you, you or they will not be available 24/7, right? There's this concept called speed to lead. So when someone's there and they're open, they're ready, they're sharing, they're speaking on the chat with you, right? But if you're not there because you're busy, you have work, you have other clients, or you're just out of hours or anything, that slowly that warm starts to cool down, right? That warm feeling they had starts to cool down, and then you might just lose them, right? When they could have been there to attract and bring in. So your AI will be on top of every single lead. As soon as they have something to say, it's there to respond, and that is alone so incredibly valuable. Um, Now, there will be times where you'll be needed to step in, not just when the times when the AI doesn't have the answer, but there might just be specific times um, where it would be helpful if you're able to help. And because again, the client knows you directly, and that's where you get the most trust. So you want to reserve your time, right, to just speak to the most directly interested, warm people, right? If you spend all your time doing all this work for every single contact, some of which might not be interested or responsive, you drain your energy a bit. And then because you drain your energy, when it comes to you connecting with those who are actually warm, who are actually interested, your energy is not as high, or your presence is just not as much there because it's just drained. Then you, yeah, you can lose people with that effect as well. So reserve your time for the most warm clients. Rather than across everyone. And also, when you have AI as your assistant, because it is basically programmed and programmed to work therefore in a very, I wouldn't say fixed way, but just following consistently the process exactly as it's been set up, it will continuously always do that. With humans, we love variety, we do things a bit differently, we might have different connections and relationships with different types of clients. We take the conversation, it can be very unique. But with the AI, you'll feel it's very consistent, predictable, and that's really important because then you can know and predict how will results go if you wanted to do this again and again or scale it higher and higher. So not quite the same when you've got humans or even yourself. Now, the last piece, like I said, it's called the last piece, but really to understand that this is about doing 20% of the work. You've already done quite a lot in the process. You've done the first two, but this is about 20% of the work to finish off the process, but this is what helps you get about 80% of the results. So this is about follow-up. I know practitioners, especially small business owners, they hate hearing this word. It's not the favorite thing they want to do, but it's really necessary, especially like when you understand 80% of your results will actually come from this. So this is all about just kind of closing. The word closing sounds a bit salesy, but essentially, yeah, just rather than people just being open, potentials, maybes, and all that, they're a potential, right? So we want to just do the best we can to close them if it's appropriate to. And if it's not, we at least leave the door open so that we can follow up again, perhaps in future. And again, this follow up can be done automatically, not by you, but this is what is part of the system. Because why we need to do follow up, even the people who are warm, right? Not just the people who've just not responded at all. Especially when it comes to that initial outreach message, which is totally out of the blue, to be honest. People receive that, you had this intention, but for them, they don't know where this has come from sometimes. So sometimes they'll be a little bit skeptic, but it's just unexpected. So having a one-off message can make them feel that way. Having it again, okay, now they can maybe feel this is a bit more genuine. So that's one reason. But like I said, people are busy, right? People have work, people are at work, people are looking after other people and they're just busy at that specific time they got the message and therefore it just got buried in their inbox or it just simply wasn't a good time, right, at that specific time. Doesn't mean later won't be a good time, but you get to find that out and then you can follow up appropriately at a future date. So sometimes people are the ones who say yes, I'm interested, and then they say they'll do it later but then they don't, right? Or sometimes people just simply miss it, right? Like I said, could have got buried, or they just didn't have their phone with them around that time, or they had phone issues. That's happened as well. So without us doing the extra effort to touch base with people who were real potentials, and by the way, we mainly do this with people who've already said yes, right? So we're not going to try and harass people who've not responded to initial outreach. Just one time we have a way to do it. It's quite appropriate. And then, yeah, more chance of, like I said, this will triple, 4 times your bookings. But it's just something that just gets overlooked because we feel like we've done the hard work, but there's just a little bit more work to do. Okay, so I've shared with you the 3-part system, but there's one secret key that I'll share with you to get you the best results when doing this specific kind of campaign, and in fact, any campaign. It's something that I've just learned in business from all my years working in business as well. And that is the concept of doing a campaign is really to do it in this very specific, compressed period of time. Like I said, the results, they're going to be coming in days. And that is only possible if you treat this like a launch that you do in a very short period of time. Because what you do is, well, as you can understand, you'll get your results fast, right? If we're talking about, like I said earlier, that example, contact 100 people, you can get up to like 20 bookings as an example, right? Maybe to be a bit more realistic, about 10 bookings. But you won't get those 10 bookings within days if you contacted these 100 people, like, 10 people at a time, day by day by day, right? You will get this more sooner if you start on a specific day to mostly or all of your list. I'll talk about later that we kind of cap it actually rather than just do your whole list straight away. But if you send this to everyone in one go, you obviously will get your outcome results a lot sooner. And that's really good. That's good for your energy, it's good for your psychology as well, right? You get this booking buzz, I call it, right? And then the more that buzz you have and the more people get attracted to it, the more you speak to people, the more it just happens and it just feels really, really good, right? Now, as well as the booking buzz, it's actually much more efficient doing this, more effective doing this way. Because when it comes to the campaign, I'll give you a specific process where it's basically 3 days of work. That can be quite an intensive period of time, but it's only for 3 days. And when you do the work in just that short period of time, like you know you can keep up with it because it's a short period of time. So you need to maintain the campaign energy needed. And the best way to do that is just to allocate yourself the time for a few days only. Um, and that's probably a more simpler way to do it. And then finally, this helps to keep the process more predictable, right? If you try to do this like 10 people at a time, 10 people at a time, 10 people at a time, they're all going to be in like different stages of the cycle because it's not just a one day thing. It will run over like 2, 3 days to speak to different people, sometimes up to 5, 6 days. So it's just easier when everything's consistent. You know what you're doing on day one, you know what you're doing on day two, you know what you're doing on day three. Because also what will happen then is you'll feel stressed and you'll feel chaotic really, where these replies are coming in now at times you didn't really allocate for it, and then you'll feel bad that you're not fully available when you could have been, right? So it just makes it more predictable, systemized, and ultimately it's a bit more fun doing it all together in one go. Okay, so in summary, this is the system that makes it really work. Got the right message in the right channel as well. The assistance, ideally automated and from the AI, which it kind of needs to be, otherwise you're kind of limited on what experience you can give them and results you can get, as well as that last piece, all about the follow-up and in particular launching in one go. So I want to share now about the kind of results that you can get in this system. And we've already seen it from examples of case studies, but I want to just relay it to you more directly in context to let you see how it actually unfolds. So to do that, I've got a note here to myself to flick over to another spreadsheet. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So a few numbers here. I'm going to go through them slowly one by one. Before we actually go further, I will mention that there is a cost to do this service, right? I mentioned there's no advertising costs, there's no running costs, but there's just an overall cost to the service, especially when you use the whole system, like the automation, the AI, the strategy, the support, done for you support, which is what I do. The cost of that is £445, right? Very little actually when you consider the returns that this can get you, and like I said, in quite a short time. So let's just take the example where you've got 300 contacts in your database that we choose to contact. And let's just take a very simple scenario, right? Keep the numbers quite simple. Imagine when it comes to the treatment that you're offering and when they say yes to it and they book, let's just say on average, the clients are taking up a treatment that is priced at, again, even also at the discount level, about £50, which is actually fairly low, but just I've worked with some clients on that level. I've also worked with some clients on higher levels, like £100, £200 average booking. So let's just say £50, I'll keep it conservative. And what that will do is on an assumption of 5%, that of 5% of contacts actually booking and paying that £50, you'll get about 15 people signing up, right? So just from your treatment value of this first appointment, you could be making £750 on these assumptions, right? That's already paying for the cost of the service. But the real value isn't just about that first time treatment, right? You did the work to get them in. Now that they're in, you have more opportunity to share more of what you can do with them, remind them more what you have available, let them know if there's anything new since the last time they came in, right? And let's just imagine your your treatments for after that is worth £500, right? So what I mean by that is not just one single treatment, £500. It can be, right? It can be a course, right? That's worth up to £500 if they take it up. But I mean more like the lifetime value. On average, the lifetime value in this industry is about £2,000, or I think even £1,000 per year, and then people roughly around for 2 years. That's not something to ignore. So let's just say, as a conservative example I've done, where each client is worth £500 after they come in, right? And let's just say out of 10 people who come in, 3 people are the ones who take up that next service, such that they're worth at least £500 to you going forward, which means four people out of those 15 roughly are paying you at some point £500 more without you paying any further costs, correct? That's an extra £2,000. And in total, your investment of £445 to run this service, you could be earning up to £2,750 from these clients, minimum effort, not taking that much time to get there. And yeah, very organic and good for your business, right? Good to get these repeat businesses and repeat clients. So that's on a conservative level where I've mentioned is £50, right? Obviously, if I change these numbers and you've got higher value treat you can offer, those numbers are much higher, right? An extra few £1,000s. Also, if we were to say, this is actually quite a conservative assumption, 5%, right? I shared some numbers before about my clients. You could see there, right? 10 to 20 bookings that they were getting. that was based on about 5%. But I will mention that we're in a refinement process and they didn't fully complete the picture. They didn't fully complete all the follow-ups. I would imagine this could be better. This could be about 7%. So just kind of increasing the potential, right? Just so you're aware, when you really do this properly and following the system as best as you can, there's an extra £2,000 just by increasing those assumptions, but that comes from just doing the work a bit more. So I don't know if you've seen this on the screen. I'll have to double check. Okay, I can see that I haven't been sharing the screen, so I'm probably going to just edit over at this point here. Okay, so anyway, I wanted you to just see the potential of results here. And just to know, I'm not making claims or what's guaranteed. These are just based on assumptions, but the assumptions I'm giving you are realistic because they are what's happened for actual clients. Okay, flicking back to the presentation. Okay, so like I mentioned there, £445 for the service is what I usually charge, and that's for 300 contacts on a one-off basis. No more further charges, no surprises from there. I say 300, you might have 1,000, 10,000 past clients. We just start off on 300, and then we assess how that's gone, and we can do much more from there if you're really interested to do that. And yeah, won't go too much into detail on that right now, but let's start with 300, and the charge is £445. However, because you are here and you've watched this training up to this point, which means I know you more value this kind of service, you understand the value of it, you're probably more interested in exploring it, then I'm actually going to reduce that price to £345. Same number of contacts, again, it's one off. Remember, you could be making this money back just from one client who takes up your offer, right? When it comes to the upsell. Or you could just think of it as 2, 3, 4 clients who take up the first level offer. You will definitely get your money back if you follow the process and yeah, if you trust and believe in this process. It's actually part of a bigger picture, but I want you to experience this value of service and cover whatever your problems were that you needed as to what got you interested to learn about this in the first place. Now, as small business owners, I totally understand it can feel a bit nervous to invest into things, especially if you're unfamiliar, especially if it's new. So to remove the barrier that I know can block most small businesses, which is basically the cost to entry, when it comes to taking advantage of exploring opportunities like this, I'm doing something to help remove that barrier. And what I'm proposing for you and letting you see is that I will let you get started and get set up and then profit without even having to pay yet. And that is by using a system called Buy Now, Pay Later. You might have seen this on shopping sites, e-commerce sites. Certain providers, I use Klarna, they allow you to pay for your service or product in 30 days time. So you can have it now, pay in 30 days. So because I'm partnered with them, I'm giving you the option to have that. And what that means is you can pay for this service and then using the income that you'll hopefully be generating from doing the service, from taking the service, you can use that income to pay for this service that you've already had. So how does that work, right? So like I said, on day naught, on the day you sign up, we get you set up and we don't launch on day naught, but we get you set up to be able to launch, right? And you paid nothing, right? After the 30 days from the time you signed up, then you will have money you'd have to make a payment, but you've had 30 days of running this campaign. And like I said, even if it's just one client who pays you up to £300, that already covers your cost. So, immediately once you launch this campaign, we're going to launch you within a week of signing up. Immediately once you launch, you're going to see some returns, right? At least people committed to wanting to book in, right? Then you've got the whole month for at least some of those people to come in, collect some cash from them. Now you've got the cash to be able to pay for the service by the end. But it's really not just about helping you break even and just be able to pay for the service. I'm much more than that. And I'll let you see as well. In fact, I'll come back to that in a second. When you see an offer like this, sounds a bit crazy. Like you might be questioning, well, what if I don't get the return to be able to pay on that day 30, right? And there is a process for us to get started. And that is where you have a call with me so I can really share my assessment of whether I think this can work for you, right? So I'll talk a bit more about that at the end. But like I said, I'm much more than just about helping you break even and make sure you cover your costs on this. Like that already actually is a great result, to be honest. But I'm much more than that. In fact, I am invested in helping you get the maximum you can from this, right? To make as much you can from the investment you've made. And to help you see that, like when we do this process, right? It's not just like this sort of, you pay or you sign up and then I just deliver this automated service and it's like nothing to lose for me. I'm actually going to be with you live in the trenches, almost becoming like your personal assistant, the one who can manage the AI assistant, and also just be there for you throughout this campaign, keeping a close eye on everything, keeping a close eye on conversations, putting you in case you were alerted but you weren't you just missed it. So I'm very much like your PA in this, and that I'm investing my time to help you get the most from this. I will be you'll have a live dashboard to know exactly what's the latest going on in your campaign and how numbers are looking, especially compared to what we set as goals and what was expected. Um, and I'll give you a report, right? That you'll be able to really clearly see how effective the campaign has gone, if there's any gaps, how we can improve it. And also with that, we'll schedule a review, which will be roughly the week after launching. Once you'll see most of the results happen at least within a week. And in that review, we'll be able to assess how things have gone, what remains open, right? Because the campaign can still carry on with the people who've already responded, and just to make sure we're getting the most from it. So we'll have a review, we'll have a strategy and a plan to continue making the most as we can from this 30 days and even beyond. And with the results that you'll get, right, the bookings, the cash flow, the income, that's actually what I want most for you, of course. But also what it does is you'll be satisfied. Hopefully you'll trust more where this service is, what the service is, and you'll be able to fund for more, right? So if you want to reactivate more people, or even if you want to attract new people to your clinic, because that's also a service that I help clinics with, you might be interested in that as well. So just let you know, I'm not just here to help you break even. I'm here to help you get the most from it. Okay, so before sharing next steps about how you can explore if this will work for you, I do want to just gently point out these truths, just so you really understand what you have and that you really are doing what is best for you, for your business, especially if you are having any challenges right now. Like what I've shared so far, hopefully you can understand. There is money sitting in your database and not exploring, unlocking it to see if it is right for you. It is literally like saying no to money. Because up till now, likely you didn't really understand about reactivation. No, it was possible. No, it could be done with this much kind of support. So you haven't done it yet. But now that you know it, in my opinion, if I'm looking at this, and again, on a call, we can confirm this even more. Unless you don't have many slots to fill in the next weeks, or another point, you don't think your clients who have actually already paid you before and you've seen and served them before, for whatever reason, if you think they don't trust you, unless those are situations you're in, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't want to explore this. But you might think so. No pressure on this when I'm saying this, but I just want you to know that um, you really have an opportunity here. And when I talk about the opportunity, it's not just about the value you're going to get from this service alone. Like I said, there is a bigger picture to this, and I want you to be able to see that so you understand what the possibilities are. And that is what I call the compounding benefits of having this sort of system, where reactivation is really just a kickstart for everything else. And what I mean by that is, like I mentioned, it's literally like having a cash injection into your business. Once you've got that cash, you know there's so much more you can be doing. There's so much more that you're already doing. It might be better to pay someone or pay through other software and automation to get those things done for you, right? And get your time back. There's so much opportunities with what other services are out there that are possible. You can simply get your time back by having the money to be able to outsource for that. And it's not just about the cash injection, like I said, from the immediate bookings, it's the upsells as well. Now, you get your time back away from the admin and everything else. You get your time back to treat people more. You get your time back to grow your practice in the way you really wanted to. And one of the key things I recommend doing when you get your time back is really building those client relationships, having that contact, that touch, doing those things that go extra and beyond, and enhancing from your side. You're investing in yourself, enhancing in all kinds of areas, make your service incredible. What you will then do as you do create this touch base and relationships with your contacts, you do put more effort in certain things you haven't had the time for because of all these other things you just had to do. You build what I call something called compound trust. So compound trust, because like I said before, the hardest thing in marketing is to win the client's trust. And you just don't have the time normally to do these things that earn trust, especially when it comes to marketing. So, yes, when you get your time back, you create this effect. People see you more, people come back in, people refer more people. When you post about stories or client success results, that all helps a lot. And ultimately, you just get to spend more of your time in your practice the way you wanted to care for your clients and let them have the best experience to feel good. As I said, I'm in the space of wellness, and I ask every practitioner when I meet them, like, why did you become a practitioner in the first place? Why did you start this business of clinical of yours? I'm sure it was not for the admin, the marketing, and then the stress you must experience having to put your head around all of this. You care about clients. You know what you can offer. You know what can benefit them. That's what I want you to help yourself spend your time doing, and with less stress. So just a reminder, if you're facing any of these kind of issues, whether it's empty slots in your diary, you're low on cash flow, you've got staff who are basically redundant because they haven't got many bookings to work on, low on repeat clients, And ultimately, you're doing this and it's a bit of a grind. You're experiencing burnout. It's depleting your passion for this, passion career you started and just feeling the stress. You don't have to have that. And maybe other things you've tried or looked at, like paid ads or posting in hope, things you have to do to take your time, having to hire extra staff to do other things, having to pay up front to get some support in doing these kind of services to generate you some more cash flow and bookings in your business. Then all you need is really this system that I just explained to you throughout this video, and you can literally fill your diary in days. And also to remember, it's the system, you receive your rewards in your cash injection, and you use that to pay later. So I also recommend this system is something you don't try and implement by yourself, just in case you were thinking that. Well, first of all, if you try to do it the manual way without the automation, because that is possible, you can. But without doing it as a launch, you do miss that launch effect, and it does become a bit more, or does become a lot more chaotic, especially when your volumes are high in terms of number of contacts you reach. If you try the automated way, you try and figure this out on your own, believe me, you'll be spending a lot more time and money than if you just simply were to make use of the service available to you. Time in terms of what it takes to figure it out, but also the time to get the results even once you start your launch as well. It's a very refined process. It's not just a process that I've come up with. It's a very proven process. I've just automated it. So also to understand that, it is kind of a one-time hit per contact. What I mean by that is once you sent a reactivation message to one person, you might think, okay, let me try it on some people myself first, and then I'll come into doing it a more serious way, like using a service like this. But then it might not make sense to send that same message back to the same person or same type of message. So if you're going to do it, you want to do it properly and give yourself the best chance to make this work. And not doing it yourself. So if you want the certainty, you want the support, and you want the speed, that's the benefit of doing this through such a service, right? So your next step, which is to explore if this is right for you and your business. I've shown you the potential. Now it's in your hands to understand whether this can work for you. And that next step is to simply schedule a call with me. There's actually a button below somewhere on this video or on this page where you're watching, and click that and you can schedule a call with me in the coming days. So in that call, it's really for me to also get to know you, your business, and your goals. Likewise, you can get to know a bit more about me, the way I work with clients as well. And a bit like how when you have a consultation with your clients, when they come in for a consultation, I'll be assessing if this is a fit, whether it makes sense for you to do this, what I believe your potential is in this. And once we believe there is, then we talk about what it is I would need to be able to carry out this work for you, and what will the plan, what will the timeline actually look like. Um, Also, something I will do during that call is if you provide me your website in advance, then I can actually look up your clinic and I can actually start building an AIPA tailored and customized towards you, your treatments in your clinic. And I'll show you live where you'll be able to interact as your potential client who gets that message and then has a conversation. You'll be blown away when you really see it live in action. And just to let you know, you taking this call, or you choosing to schedule this call, there is no obligation for you to actually sign up. It's simply about, we'll discuss your goals, especially. I'll be assessing whether I think it's a fit. And if I do, I will let you know and I'll leave it with you to be able to decide, is this something you want to do right now, right? There'll be no surprises, no pressure, no extra services and upsells and things like that, purely focused on from the content of what you've seen in this training. Finally, what I want to leave you with is this, if you can see the whole screen. If you don't choose to take action on just even exploring this now, for example, to take that call, the money and time you spend in this next 30 days could have actually come from elsewhere rather than out of your bank account, right? So if you're running paid ads, you're likely spending it from your own business's account right now. That, if you continue doing that, but if you did this strategy in the system, you could earn that cash, right, without having paying up front, and then you can use that cash to pay not just for the service, but to pay for other things you're paying for, right? So whether that's paid ads, whether that's hiring other staff for certain jobs, but even the time you spend, right? If you like I said, earned the cash flow, you had the money to outsource the things you spend your time doing in the next 30 days, you could have outsourced that and got someone else to potentially be doing that. And if you haven't had these ideas, or you're not currently spending money or outsourcing time through other people right now because maybe you don't have the money right now, then that's another reason to take action on this, because there's a world of opportunities out there when you leverage, when you outsource, and making your life easier and enjoying your work, your business much more. So schedule a call with me, click the button below, and thank you so much for watching all the way throughout this training. Have any questions, you can always chat to me if you have my email, my WhatsApp, but best thing to do, schedule a call with me, and I look forward to hearing about you and then help you fill out your calendar. Thank you.